All right, now let's move on, shall we? And as you know, this has been a busy week where the political season is actually getting into, some crescendo, if you like, as we have the NPP presidential hopefuls crisscrossing the country and seeking to pitch for votes. The NDC has also begun. And for the NDC, I think, they are picking form, so they are not candidates yet. So President Mahama has also done so. But he's launched his campaign, and what attracts attention the more is a few promises that he has made. Let's listen to him and come to check if these are bold reforms he intends to do, or it is what you call the usual empty rhetoric to get votes.
We will initiate and undertake the most far-reaching constitutional, political, and governance reforms under the Fourth Republic, which will be aimed at restoring confidence in our democracy and governance systems while making life easier and better for the people of Ghana. In response to the concerns and calls from many of you, we will initiate and undertake the most far-reaching constitutional, political, and governance reforms that will restore confidence in our democracy. We will continue and bring to conclusion the constitutional review process that was begun by the late President Atta Mills, which will include a review of the controversial Article 71 to reduce the number of office holders under Article 71 and reduce the disparities in privileges and emoluments vis-à-vis the public sector and civil service. The payment of ex-gratia to members of the executive under Article 71 will be scrapped. In the history of the Fourth Republic, it is the NDC that has provided the most roads, water, electricity, educational, health, telecommunications infrastructure across the length and breadth of this country. It was the NDC that took the decision that every region of Ghana must have a public university. And that is why today we have University of Health and Allied Sciences here. We must clean the organ stables and rid them of the filth and corruption. The anti-corruption institutions will be given unfettered access to do their work. The days of the infamous clearing agents will be well and truly over. To ensure efficiency and professionalism in this endeavor, institutions of states will be empowered to work independently without interference.
The next person is also a brother from Kumau. Oh, Dr. Dufour. Have you won your seat before? Charity begins at home. Have you won it before? Who should do the monkey job for you to become a president of this country? And he's also my brother. I am an Ashanti, Dufour. He's from Kumau. You have never won it. Never have you won the regional chairman. So you see, the campaign, after I finish with them, the campaign is finished. You don't waste your time. And let's come to Kwajo Bonsu, Ose Bonsu. He is from Offenso. I'm wondering why the Ashantis are so eager to become president when they are not doing their homework well. But it's a good brain, The three of them can win the 3 seats for us. Charity begins at home. Go there and win the seat for us before we can think about you. But if you don't do it and you are showing your face, you are just giving us troubles.
John Mahama coming back is an old story. It's not a new story that Ghanaians should be thinking about. John Mahama is saying that he's come to repair Ghana. Actually, no one from the MPP is saying that Ghana is not facing the challenge. We know we have economic crisis, but I have already been saying that it's better for Ghanaians to be in MPP government than to be an NDC.
All right. So, I think I'll start with you, Mama Yarga.
Yeah.
So the focus this morning is, of course, people knew that he will contest, and he's launched his campaign, but the focus this morning is the promise to deal with Article 71. No more ex-gratia for you too. You won't get ex-gratia. And he says he will run the leanest government in this country's history. Why should anybody believe him?
Well, I believe him, and I know he listens to advice, and I can relate this to you. I've never said this publicly, but I can relate this to you. If you recall, when President John Dramani Mahama started his government in 2013, if you recall, I was his Minister of Information and Media Relations. You recall that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you recall, when I was reshuffled out of the Ministry of Information and Media Relations and taken to Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Ministry of Information was collapsed, okay, and merged with Ministry of Communication in order to reduce the number of ministries. It was based on my personal advice to him that I didn't think that we should have an independent, separate Ministry of Information and Media Relations, and that you could effectively fuse the work of the Ministry of Information and the Ministry of Communication and still achieve, the same or even better results. And he listened to that advice. So if you recall, he collapsed the Ministry of Information and Media Relations. And I think until we left office, we didn't have a separate Ministry of Information. It was Minister of Communication. And the deputies who were with me at the Minister of Information were sent to Minister of Communication to handle the media relations work. So this is somebody that I know at a very personal level that he believes in those issues and he understands that it is possible to collapse ministries and merge them and restructure government in such a way that you could run the country with a leaner government. So I can identify with his promise that yes, I think we can run the country with.
Do you have an idea what he means by a lean government? President Akufo-Addo, seemed to have suggested something, and when he came in, a lean government meant 126 ministers.
Well, he is specific. He says a lean government
says the leanest government.
Yes, the leanest government shouldn't exceed 60 ministers, and that's what John Mahama has said.
It shouldn't exceed 60 ministers.
He has given a specific figure. It could actually be less. If you ask me, I can tell you that I believe that you could run this country with far, far less number of ministers. I personally believe that you could run this country because I tell people that over the years, our governance arrangement has been reconfigured. You take a ministry, you find out that the job of the ministry, the actual substantive work of the sector is controlled by agencies, authorities, commissions, and parastatals under it. So the ministry as an entity is often really not a busy place. And so you talk to a lot of the deputy ministers, and they complain bitterly that my minister is not giving me a job. Sometimes I laugh when I hear those things. having been a minister myself before, I know that the reality is that there's no work to be done by the minister. That's why he hasn't passed much to you. Because a lot of the work is done. Let's say you go to Ministry of Energy, you find out the Petroleum Commission is doing a lot of the work, okay? You find out the NPA is doing a lot of the work. You find out the Utilities Regulatory Commission is doing a lot of the work. You find out that GNPC is doing a lot of the work. You find out that Ghana Gas is doing a lot of the work. So in the end, the minister's workspace gets so limited just to policy issues. And so you can run this country with far less, ministers than we presently have.
So the question is, he had the opportunity. Why now?
Well, I mean, I gave you an example of when I worked with him, how we collapsed 2 ministries into 1, okay? The situation is even more dire now in the sense that look at our ballooning debts. Look at the problems we have with mobilizing resources to run the country. And so one of the measures that any pragmatic leader has to implement is to seriously consider downsizing government if we are going to return to a viable economic condition. So now it has become even more imperative that we downsize. And when we talk about a lean government, I think people just look at it at the level of ministers. Even the agencies, the parastatals, you find out that these days you have one CEO and you have 4 or 5 deputy CEOs, all drawing conditions of service that are not that much different from the conditions of service of the CEO. So you virtually multiplied CEO positions. And then you have ministers who have special assistants, and etc. And after that they have public relations officers who are different from the public relations officer of the main ministry that they are serving. And then we've gone to replicate, several development authorities who are just a further superimposition on existing regional coordinating councils and existing district assemblies. And the last time we're even vetting the minister designate for Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government, we probed into even the local government sector. And we found out that even at the district assemblies, you find, so many directors just below the coordinating director. Many of them sometimes without any work to do, any proper designation. So the ballooning of the size of government at the local level, government level, the decentralized district assembly, municipal, metropolitan assembly level, the regional coordinating council level, and then the duplication of institutions at that level with development authorities. Then at the national level, the ballooning of the sizes of the parastatals and commissions and etc.
Let's say that's an executive decision, so he may be able to do that.
Yes.
He may be able to do that.
Yes.
But what happens to this promise about Ex-gratia Article 71?
Well, let me say that that's actually easy to do.
Really?
Yes, very easy to do. First, you only need to amend the legislation, the constitution, in order maybe to take out categories. Otherwise, you can actually reduce the government expenditure by just going through the process as it is now. Because what is the process now? The process is that the president should set up a committee, and that committee should determine the emoluments of the president and his ministers and members of the executive and give it to the legislature to approve. And then determine the emoluments of the legislature and give it to the president to approve. If one is really committed to downsizing the amount of money that we spend, first and foremost, the committee normally listens to you. What are your proposals in terms of your conditions of service? You, the executive. They always listen to you. And I'm saying this because I've participated in the process before and I know what is involved. So if you go and say, look, we want to take less, the commission will not force you that you should take more. They will accept your less. It is that less that they will forward to the parliamentarians to consider. You understand me? So even before you have amended the legislation, you can implement a significant chunk of your proposal to cut down on how much is spent on Article 71 office holders. The same way, the committee will determine the conditions of the MPs, and then they will bring it to you, the executive, to approve. If you disagree with the quantum that the MPs are asking for, you can refuse to to approve. Are you getting the situation? And then, again, you will have had the effect of reducing what should go to the legislature. In any case, you have, very often you have about half of the members of the legislature being your own party members, or even if it's not half, but a significant number. You can use them to push within the legislature so that they don't, hike their demands in terms of their conditions of service. So what the committee will ultimately bring to you will be a moderated figure. So those are mechanisms that any sitting president who is committed to reducing how much we spend on both the legislature and the executive can, and for the judiciary and others, I think there's so much concern about how much they get, because already many of us think that they're not getting as much as is needed for them to be able to do their work.
So as far as you are concerned,
yes.
it is not too much a matter of tweaking the Constitution. It can be done.
If you have to tweak the Constitution,
because Article 71,
when you listen to him carefully,
Article 71 is under entrenched provision.
Yes. When you listen to him carefully,
you need to go through a referendum to amend it.
Yes. When you listen to him carefully, he spoke about tweaking Article 71 in relation to rationalizing the categories. Are you getting the point? Because Article 71 loads a lot of institutions and bodies.
All right.
So he talks about amending Article 71 in relation to rationalizing the categories. So if you want to take out some categories and say, look, these ones don't really need to. For instance, I don't think that you should have, I won't mention names now, I just want to be careful. But there are some people, like, you see, when it comes to the executive and the legislature, they have a very limited mandate. They are there for just 4 years. Okay? So determining what should be his contract for the 4 years becomes a little more tricky. But let's say a judge, he's there for the entire period of 60 up to 65, and then in some cases 70 and 75, depending on the level at which you retire. So it's a longer term, contract. So there should be probably some dynamics that inform how you determine their remuneration. But you lump all of them into the category of a member of parliament and
let me come to you,
member of the executive who have just a 4-year mandate. So that's where he talks about amending the constitution to rationalize.
So let me come to you, Sylvester. As you understand, this president, who is presently, as in all ex-presidents are entitled, retired on his salary of 22,000, has fully funded international travels twice a year. He's got a fully furnished office space with accommodation and communication tools with 4 staff. He's got free medical care. I don't know if they use that because the system itself, they create it for us, not for themselves. Security, he's got 2 personnel with cars. He's got 2 chauffeur-driven vehicles, and these are going to be changed every 4 years. Then he's got accommodation, or is paid 9,000 plus monthly. You understand that what he's saying is that he's going to scrap this, or what is he going to do about it when he says he's going to work on that thing?
Well, Samson, I think that the message is good, but the messenger is a wrong messenger.
Why?
Something I wonder, and I'm happy you asked my senior colleague if he trusts what he's saying. No Ghanaian trusts former President Mahama on this matter, except his own NDC people who will trust him.
Why?
He happens to choose an occasion where his NDC people were only chanting and excited but not to interrogate the man and interrogate the issues. He has an opportunity. If indeed he means what he's saying, he has an opportunity to demonstrate to Ghanaians. In this country, Togbe Afede said he doesn't want to take his ex-gratia. So he's giving it to the country. And you want to be president again, and you are enjoying the benefit of Article 71 office holders you want to scrap. So the best test for you is to surrender it. Then we can trust you. He has a staff with him, and I'm not surprised one of his former executives said he's a retired president who's enjoying all the benefits. So if they lose the next election, he doesn't bother, he doesn't care. You are enjoying all these benefits. He's the biggest beneficiary of Article 71 beneficiary in this country, in the history of this country. Having been a former MP, a former minister, vice president, president, and he's enjoying it.
He's entitled to.
He's entitled
to say, "I will change that," because.
So that's why I'm saying that the best case is that you have an opportunity. Let Ghanaians trust your word. It's not about what you say; it's about what you do. So now he has an opportunity. He's enjoying it. If indeed he wants to scrap it, then he should surrender all the entitlement he's getting.
Do you recall he attempted it?
I don't. He should put it in. I mean,
this actually not the first time he's talking about it. Wait, in 2015, you recall that he tried to organize labor. He tried to rally.
I'm coming to
tried to rally support for this to happen.
Yes, and that's the more reason why 2015, when he said he will scrap Article 71 benefits, I thought that when he retired from office, he should have been an example. You said it in 2015 when you were in power. You were the president of the republic at the time. And you were rallying support. So at least, if you didn't even get the support, as it were, your decision, your personal decision. When he left office, he even wrote a letter to the executive, to the president that succeeded him, that his official residence should be given to him and adjoining properties. So this is a man we cannot trust in any shape or form. So when John Mahama, or former President Mahama, His Excellency speaks, I'll have to interrogate it. And interrogating whatever he says today is contrary to his own actions and what he's doing today. Obviously, he cannot convince me. He cannot convince any Ghanaian. He has the biggest opportunity as a Ghanaian. If he indeed believes in what he's saying, he should surrender whatever he is.
What if he told you that President Mills began this process of rationalizing this, setting up the Constitution Review Commission, whose report I have in front of me here, and they actually proposed an emoluments commission to replace this you slap my back, I slap your back song. And then they tried to implement it.
Where's the white paper?
In the process, they accepted it. In the white paper, they accepted it. Right. They tried to implement it. In the process, there was a court case which dragged until around 2015 when the ruling came from Professor Kwaku Asah. And then the minority then also opposed it, the implementation. If he says, this is my commitment.
Yeah, so I'm saying that, look, you can have an opposition to everything. Today, I've cited Togbe Afede as an example. If Togbe Afede says, if I become a president of this republic, I will not take salary or ex-gratia, Ghanaians will trust him. But you are a beneficiary. Even this man, his salary and a monument will go. You are keeping it and you are telling us when you come. When you had even started this in 2015 when you were the president. So the best form of evidence to show Ghanaians that indeed I can do what I'm saying today was to have surrounded it. And I'm saying that whilst he left office, his official residence, he wrote that where he was living should be given to him. So this is a man that you cannot trust what
you don't know if when he says he wants to rationalize it, you don't know the extent to which...
So he will rationalize it minus himself, if that's what he's saying.
No, I'm saying you don't know the extent to which he intends to rationalize. Whether the rationalization will affect that if you finish serving your term as a president, you should not be entitled to a residence or an office.
But that is what I'm saying, that if you believe in what you are doing, you are a living testimony. So you should practically tell us that you can actually serve as a president without taking all these things. And look, please, wait. Let me finish. You see, when the current president talked about MMDCs being elected, it's in the same report. And look at the white paper the NDC put on that particular thing. We are looking at how to have a leaner or more accountable governance, and especially the local governance structure. They said the NDC white paper on the election of MMDCs that you appoint, the president will appoint 5 people, they go through Public Services Commission, and they'll go and stand for elections. Laughable. Laughable. So for me, I agree with him that the size of governance today is not limited to the number of ministers and deputy ministers you have. Indeed, the more expenditure of governance today is with the executive and the authorities we create and the CEOs, deputy CEOs and all that. Majority of members, ministers and deputy ministers are members of parliament. They take the salary of members of parliament. The additions are not that much. So that one, anybody can do, and that becomes a propaganda thing.
Right.
He should go beyond that, surrender all his entitlements today, let Ghanaians have some confidence in him, and of course, tell us, the CEOs, the deputy CEOs, that the Act of Parliament has prescribed how many CEOs and deputies you should have. Most of the agencies of state today are in laws. That you pick a CEO, Cocoa Board has 3, based on their law. National Youth Authority, you have a CEO.
But there's no crime if you don't do that.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, that all these things are prescribed in
The law says CEO plus deputies.
The 2 deputies
You can
or
decide
3
to have
deputies
just a
or
CEO. You don't
whatever
need
it is. So
deputies. Okay.
the actual expenditure of government is more of the executive than...
All right, we take a break quickly. We'll return. Kofi Bentil and Suleiman Abrahima, please hold on. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And when it comes to the ministers, there are many of you who are sending messages that if President Mahama means it, he can do better. So he should promise us to go further down and not at least, it shouldn't go beyond 60. If you have listened to governance experts and teachers like Dr. Kwame Asa Asante, they have said that we can actually manage this country with 19 ministers. 19 ministers. It is workable. Right. Now, some people are also sending messages about the fact that there are many of the agencies that the law did not mention deputy, but we have 3 deputies and so on. What will you say to that? All of that must stop. Now, Kofi Bento and Sulemana, what do you make of President Mahama's, bold promise?
Okay, can I go first?
Yes, please.
Right, so I think this should be made clear. Article 71, issues concerning ex-gratia, issues concerning small and efficient government, and constitutional review are the most powerful triggering issues in Ghana today. And anybody who makes a sound promise concerning these issues will capture the attention of the populace. There are arguments about whether they can do it or they cannot do it. Here is the position. It can and must be done. As far as I am concerned, there is no impediment in the way of President Mahama to do these things because honestly, they are easy. Now, this whole argument that if he wants to do these things, he should cancel his own ex-gratia, whatever first, it's a red herring. If somebody says, I'm going to review this thing, if somebody says, I'm going to scrap a bad law, etc., he didn't say, I'm going to cancel pensions for presidents.
Yeah, but lead by example. Lead by example.
No, let me finish. It is not smart to say that the best example is for him to give up his pensions. Look, it is wrong. It is not even in the interest of the country and in its, in the furtherance of its dignity that a former president will walk around anyhow. It reflects on us badly. So nobody should make this, base argument that he should cancel his own emoluments and pensions, etc.
You are saying this is a big issue. Many Ghanaians have been talking about this when it comes to constitution amendment and all. People talk about this, and we have people too, I think including yourself, Isankuma, who say that it's not really about amending the constitution. The constitution didn't say give yourselves as much as you are giving yourselves. So why will you not believe that President Mahama is only playing on this because it will win him votes rather than meaning to do it?
So I'm coming there. Question, why would I not believe? Listen, he's a politician. It is very self-serving for him to make these promises. But beyond that, I started by saying these are the most triggering issues today. And so it is proper if he's a smart politician to do this. This is equal to free SHS. This is the kind of thing that wins elections. No matter what you think about President Mahama, if indeed you can trust that he will do these things, it will make him attractive to you. And as far as I am concerned, no matter what I think about President Mahama, he's a fine gentleman. He's run this country before. Nothing makes me not believe him. So let me make the statement. I have no doubt that President Mahama can, and I hope he will, do these things that he's promised. If he's a serious politician and he wants to capture, the kind of votes that he wants to capture, he should stick with this.
Okay.
It starts, all these reforms, they start with promises. Free SHS started with promises. There were no plans.
Right.
So I'm saying the other politicians should take a cue from this and they should all give us better plans than President Mahama has given us.
Okay. In fact, some of you have been suggesting that we should make Article 71 and a comprehensive amendment of the Constitution a matter for the elections and hold all the candidates to what exactly they will do. Sule, we have just a minute to go. Some will say, why believe in politician? Kofi speaks with some conviction and faith and hope. Didn't we do that the last elections? What have we seen?
Well, Samson, what I would say is that President Mahama is saying the right things, the things that people would want to hear. Implementation of those promises are certainly critical to our national development. Are they doable? I would say yes, they can easily be done. In fact, I mean, President Akufo-Addo creating regions was, entrenched clause, and we did it, and regions were created. Even in terms of the district level elections of DCEs, I mean, processes were undertaken. It got to a point where the government realized that no, it was not going to make it, and the president literally vetoed that the elections should not go on. And then, of course, he's been there before. So the question is, does he have the track record for us to trust that he would implement what he says? I think that is where the real questions are. And for me, maybe unlike Kofi, I would say that, yes, I can trust that it can be done. But the last social contract that President Mahama had with the people of Ghana was the 2012 manifesto, because he won the 2012 elections and governed led this country for 4 years. At that time, if time allows, just quickly and briefly, the things that was said was that, quote, our late president, Professor John Mills, inaugurated a Constitution Review, CRC 2010, to examine both the content and the operation of the 1992 Constitution in fulfillment of one of the 208 manifesto promises. Following that highly consultative and deliberative processes, the CRC produced an impressive report that constitutes an excellent template for improving on the governance of Ghana. Then here is the promise. Further to the government's white paper on the report of the Constitution Review Commission's report, we will involve the people directly in the election of district chief executives and take responsibility for the payment of the remuneration of assembly members. The question is, was it done? There was another one. The NDC government has accepted virtually all the recommendations of the commission.
Yes, but Suleimana, we have run out of time. But when it comes to the Constitution review process, when it was done and the white paper was issued, there was a lawsuit. The lawsuit was not settled until sometime in 2015, late. And then the NPP too didn't support the implementation of it. So how can you blame that government for it?
Well, I personally, I would say that I didn't see that much verve. Because when Mills said he wanted to do this, the commission was set up.
All right, right. Time just caught up with us.